I grew up in a modest house. Not tiny, but not spacious either. For most of my childhood, I shared a bedroom with my older brother. Two twin beds pushed against opposite walls, two dressers, two closets, barely any room to move around. We didn't even have space for a desk, which meant homework was always done in the basement or in my dad's office upstairs. It wasn't miserable, but it wasn't comfortable either. So when my brother finally went off to college, I did what any younger sibling would do. I immediately dragged his bed out of the room and claimed the space as mine. Finally, I could breathe. Finally, I could have a desk in my own room, a little corner of privacy that I had never experienced before. For 2 years, it was perfect, but nothing ever stays that way. After he graduated, my brother came back home and took the room back. My parents told me it was only fair. After all, I had done the same thing when he left. I couldn't really argue with them, but I was frustrated, which left me with only one option: the upstairs guest room. That room. It had a strange feeling about it. Smaller than my old room, tucked away on the corner of the house. Two windows, one facing the driveway, the other staring blankly at the side yard. It sat directly above the garage, so every time the door opened or closed, the floor would hum and rattle for a full 10 seconds like the whole room was trembling. During the day, it was quiet, secluded. But at night, it always felt wrong, as if the walls were listening. I tried to ignore it. I had no choice. One Friday evening, I came home from work drained, barely able to keep my eyes open. My parents were away at our family's shore house for the weekend. My brother was in Baltimore for a work conference. For once, the house was completely silent. No TV blaring, no footsteps, no voices. I decided not to go out with friends. Instead, I ordered food, crawled into bed, and let myself enjoy the stillness. It was about 11:30. I was lying on my side, reading by the weak glow of a lamp, when the house began to vibrate. At first, I thought I was imagining it, but then I heard it. That mechanical groaning sound I'd learned to recognize instantly. The garage door was opening. It hit me all at once. Nobody should have been home. My parents had told me very clearly that they'd be gone until Sunday night. My brother wasn't due back until the next afternoon. I was supposed to be completely alone. My chest tightened. My heart started racing. I threw the covers off and stumbled to the window that overlooked the driveway. The night was pitch black, the glass reflecting more of my own face than the outside world. But I could see it, the garage door hanging open like a gaping mouth. I couldn't tell if there was a car inside, couldn't tell if anyone was standing there. But the vibration had been real. Someone had opened it. I didn't even think. I grabbed the first thing I could find in the closet, an old aluminum baseball bat from my younger days. It felt light in my hands, almost too light for what I was about to do. As I crept down the stairs, I tried to convince myself that there was a logical explanation. Maybe my parents forgot something important and drove back without telling me. Maybe my brother's plans changed. Hell, maybe the garage door had glitched. But then I heard them. Voices. Low, muffled. Coming from the far side of the house where the bedrooms were. At least two of them. That was all I needed to know. Strangers were inside. I pulled out my phone, dialed 911, whispered my address. The operator told me to stay quiet, stay hidden, wait for officers to arrive. But in that moment, something in me snapped. Maybe it was adrenaline. Maybe it was stupidity. But I couldn't just crouch in a corner while strangers tore apart my family's home. I tightened my grip on the bat. My palms were slick with sweat. Every step down the hallway felt like I was marching toward my own execution. The voices grew clearer, drawers sliding open, closet doors creaking. Laughter. They weren't just stealing, they were searching. I took a deep breath, then screamed at the top of my lungs. I charged into my parents' bedroom, bat raised high. Two men spun around, faces masked in shock. They hadn't expected anyone. For the briefest second, I had the upper hand. I swung at the nearest one. The bat cracked against his leg. He howled in pain, stumbling backward. But before I could swing again, the other man barreled into me. He was huge, bigger, stronger. We crashed to the ground. My head snapped back against the floor. Stars filled my vision. He tore the bat from my hands with terrifying ease. His grip clamped around my throat like a vice. I couldn't breathe. I clawed at his hands, kicked, thrashed. But he just leaned harder, his eyes burning with rage. Through the haze of panic, I saw movement. The first man was crawling toward me, dragging his injured leg. Something metallic glinted in his hand. A knife. And right then, I knew I was going to die. A strange calm washed over me. My body was screaming for air, my vision narrowing into a tunnel, but my mind whispered, "This is it. This is how it ends." In my parents' bedroom, alone, choking on my own panic, I thought about my mom, about how devastated she'd be to find me like this. But just as the crawling man raised the knife, sirens wailed in the distance. The man choking me froze. Both of them exchanged a look of raw panic, and then crack. The world went black as the second man swung the baseball bat into my skull. When I came to, the room was filled with flashing lights. A police officer knelt over me, shaking me gently, his voice muffled and echoing. The back door was wide open. They were gone. I was alive, but just barely. The officers told me to stay still, not to move in case of a concussion. My head throbbed with the worst pain I've ever felt, but I was conscious. A medic tried to convince me to go to the hospital. I refused. I gave my statement, explained everything. The men vanished into the night. The police never caught them. That night replayed in my head for years afterward. But what haunted me most wasn't the violence. It was the knowledge that the intruders hadn't just broken into some random house. They knew us. All the doors were locked that night. The only way to open the garage was through the wireless switch in my car. The switch only my dad had programmed. And I had never locked my car in the driveway. Which meant they knew. They knew about the button. They knew where we kept it. They knew my parents were gone. They knew my brother was away. Someone close to us had betrayed us, and that is a different kind of horror. It's been 10 years since that night. 10 years since I lay on the floor of my parents' bedroom, certain I was about to die, only to wake to flashing red and blue lights. 10 years of trying to move forward, pretending I wasn't still looking over my shoulder. But the truth is, you don't just walk away from something like that, you carry it. It waits for you in the dark corners of your memory, and sometimes it comes back. For a long while, things seemed quiet. Too quiet. My parents eventually sold the old house. My brother moved away. And me? I found a little duplex about 20 minutes from my mom so I could check on her more often. It wasn't much. 2 small bedrooms, a narrow living room, a kitchen with appliances that hummed louder than they should have. But it was mine. I told myself I finally had peace, but deep down, I knew better. See, my mother's health had started to decline. A couple of minor falls, a dizzy spell here and there. I begged her to wear one of those medical alert pendants, the ones where you push the button and help comes right away. But she refused. "I don't need that," she said. "I'm not helpless." Stubborn to the very end, it meant I was constantly worried. Every night before bed, I'd call her. And if she didn't pick up, I'd drive across town, no matter the time, just to make sure she was okay. That constant tension made me hyper-aware of everything. My nerves were always on edge, and that duplex, it wasn't the sanctuary I hoped for. At first, it was little things. The way the walls seemed too thin. The way I could hear my neighbor's TV through the splaster late at night. The creak of the stairs when I knew I hadn't moved. The hum of the pipes when the heater kicked in. Ordinary sound until they weren't. Because sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night, certain I'd heard something else. Not the pipes, not the fridge. Breathing or footsteps. Like someone pacing slowly across the upstairs room. A room I knew was empty. One night around 9:30, I was dozing on the couch. The TV flickered blue across the walls, washing the whole living room in ghostly light. That's when my phone buzzed. The screen lit up with a local number I didn't recognize. Normally, I don't answer unknown numbers, but I was still fairly new in town. For all I knew, it was a neighbor, or my mom's doctor, or someone important. So, half asleep and not thinking clearly, I answered. At first I thought it was a wrong number, there was only silence. Then, a breath. Slow, heavy, right against the speaker. I sat up, suddenly wide awake. "Hello?" I asked. Nothing. Another breath. Then a voice, a man's voice. Low, cold, whispering my name. I felt the blood drain from my face. That voice! I hadn't heard it in 10 years, but I knew it instantly. It was the same voice that had laughed while his partner pressed the air out of my lungs. The same voice that had haunted my nightmares every single night since. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. On the line he chuckled, a sound I'll never forget. "You should have died that night," he whispered. My stomach twisted. My hand trembled so hard I nearly dropped the phone. I forced myself to whisper back, "Who is this?" But I already knew. The voice ignored the question. "We watched you," he said softly. "We watched your parents drive away. Watched your brother leave. You thought you were clever, swinging that little bat." He laughed again. "You weren't supposed to survive." My chest tightened. I wanted to hang up. God, I wanted to throw the phone across the room, but I couldn't. Some sick part of me needed to know what he would say next. The line went silent. No breathing, no whispering, just silence. And then, knock. I froze. It hadn't come from the phone. It came from my front door. A single deliberate knock. My eyes shot to the door just a few feet away. Then knock, knock. Two more, slow and steady. On the line, the voice whispered, "Open the door." I sat there paralyzed, heart hammering so loud I could barely hear anything else. The knocking stopped. Silence filled the room. I swallowed hard, waiting for another sound, but none came. Then, the voice again, but not through the phone this time. From the other side of the door. "We found you." I dropped the phone. It clattered against the hardwood floor, but I didn't care. My gaze stayed locked on the door. Slowly, as if every bone in my body resisted, I forced myself to stand. I crept toward the peephole, every step heavier than the last. And when I finally pressed my eye to the glass, there was nothing, just the empty porch. Darkness, silence. No one was there. My hands shook as I picked the phone back up. The call was still connected. I pressed it to my ear, and in the faintest whisper I heard, "See you soon." That was 6 months ago, and I haven't slept properly since. Every creak of the floorboards, every knock of the pipes, every shadow that shifts across the wall. I wonder if it's them. Waiting, watching. And sometimes, when the house is very quiet, I swear I hear breathing upstairs again. Because sometimes the scariest part isn't what already happened. It's knowing it's not over. For more videos like this, hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Thank you for watching.